Gracious greetings, St. Stephen's servants. Welcome to another edition of Living Water for a Thirsty Thursday. Have you ever heard the term, it's not about you? Well, I'd venture to say this week, it's all about you. It's Holy Week. It's Passion Week. And prayerfully, your takeaways will be learning a little bit more about me, learning a little bit more about thee, and learn a little bit more about we. The passage that I want to look at today comes from John 3:16. And it's a familiar passage, and it reads, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Why John 3:16? Well, it is probably the most powerful passage that speaks to God's character as well as his purpose, especially in this Passion Week. When people talk about it's not about you, they're really trying to take the focus off of you. But John 3:16 is doing quite the opposite. It's putting all of the focus on you. It starts off, "For God so loved you that he gave you his only begotten Son." Begotten means any son that he would have had and any son that he will have, he gave for you, his son or daughter. He had to choose between children and he chose you. It really is all about you. Well, what did he give? He gave the gift of salvation. And so when we say me, we're really talking about me in salvation. What is salvation? Salvation is atonement. What is atonement? Atonement is forgiveness. Well, what is forgiveness? It's reconciliation. Well, what do I need to have reconciled? What do I need to have forgive? What do I need to have atonement for? And it goes all the way back to the book of the beginnings in Genesis, when God challenged man and said, "You shall not eat from this tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat thereof, you will surely die." And so we know that we partake, and since we were able to partake, that death came into our lives, eternal damnation came into our lives. And so God put a redemptive plan in place to redeem us, to atone for us, to forgive us, to reconcile us. That is me. That's how much he cares for you, that he gave us the gift of salvation. Well, the passage moves on from there after he gives his son, Jesus Christ, and he moves to the place that whosoever believeth in him. And we're all just a bunch of whosos. And so after I get past me, then it's thee. And thee moves from salvation to sanctification. Sanctification is something different. Sanctification comes after salvation. Sanctification is the life we live since we are saved. Sanctification speaks of consecration. Sanctification speaks of being set apart or set aside for God's purposes or plans. Sanctification speaks of holiness and righteousness. It speaks of trying to live in a way that honors God. And so when he says in here that whosoever shall believeth, it's the only word in this verse that gives us something to do, a way to participate in the relationship with God. And he says, "I want you to believe." And in that belief, he wants us to live in a way that he has mandated for us to live, whether it's the 10 Commandments or the golden rules or other things that you've learned from the Bible. That's what sanctification is. It's how we live after sanctification on our way to the next one that we're going to speak of after we move from the me to the thee. The last one for today is the we, the glorification. The part where we actually move from this life here on earth and we go to, as he said in John 14, "I go to prepare a place for you, that where I am, there you may be also." And he said we'll be able to walk on streets paved with gold, and he has a mansion preserved for us. That's glorification that he wants us to go. And that's where we will be with God for eternity. And that's what the end of John 3:16 speaks to. He says, after we believe in him, he says, we shall not perish, but we will have everlasting life instead of everlasting damnation. We will always be in the very presence of God, walking on streets with gold. No more sickness, no more sorrow. As they used to say, no more pills and no more bills is what grandma used to say. In closing, I just want to read one more passage that kind of brings all of this together about the purpose and the character of God. And that comes still from the book of John, the 15th chapter, the 13th verse. And it simply says, "Greater love hath no man than this, that a man would lay down his life for his friends. I just want you to know more than ever today, you are a friend of God. And greater love has no man than this, that a man would lay down his life for you, my friend. God bless you. God keep you as we move forward is our prayer.